Joining us right now, a first-timer, and she'll talk about the banner fiasco. Welcome to Sonja Cori Missio. She's co-founder and CEO of Unusual Efforts. Sonja, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure is all mine. Sonja, let's get right to it. I've said my piece. I was disgusted. I was absolutely appalled when I saw it. I think it was disgraceful. You know, I'll tell you, Sonja, I was with my wife and two sons in the private box of President Bill Manning a number of weeks back in a game. And you know what? If I would have saw that day myself, I would have walked down and I would have taken that sign and ripped it 6 ways to Sunday. There's no way whatsoever a sign like this should be in the stadium. And I don't want to blame security because their job is thankless. But to me, it's disgusting. I want to hear from you what your thoughts are and what should happen moving forward.
Well, just on your point about security too, I actually thought TFC, the club as well, did a really great job. They responded within 24 hours on a Sunday. They had their social media team replying to people individually, talking, apologizing, saying that they're looking into it. They released a statement, and I thought they handled it really, really well. It's unfortunate that it got to a situation that they had to handle, but I do want to give props to TFC because I know they're getting quite a bit of blame for this, but I don't think that's where it should be placed necessarily.
No, absolutely not. And I said this off the top of the show. I don't blame security. I don't blame TFC and Bill Manning. They can only do what they can do. Let's start talking about all the great work some of the supporters groups have done over the years, like we talked to Phil Tobin of the Red Patch Boys. A lot of things we don't see behind the scenes, Sonja, that they do good work in the community.
For sure, and I'm really glad that you guys brought up the TIFO that they had at the beginning because, I've been going there for 10 years and I haven't seen a display quite like that. It was amazing and fantastic and massive, and it is a collaboration between all of the supporter groups to make it. Unfortunately, it kind of got pushed to the wayside, as you said, because there was that bigger issue. And that issue is just something that's so inherent in soccer that it's really, really unfortunate, and it's not something I see going away anytime soon. And I don't specifically mean with Toronto FC, but just the idea and the culture in general.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sonja, I call it the way I see it. This is how I've done it for years and years working in the sports media business. I don't sugarcoat it. I would like to see this individual banned for a lifetime ever attending any TFC games again. Simply put, I know that you took a lot of shots on Twitter. I don't know why, because to me, it doesn't make any sense how someone can support a sign like that. I heard some people saying, oh, well, in Europe, this is worse than that. I don't care about Europe. I'm in Toronto.
Well, and I think that's a bit of the problem, and I got a lot of flack for blaming inebriety, and I understand that people are very defensive of the supporter groups, and I totally understand that you want to back it up, but the point that I was trying to make is that the problem that I have with the inebriety and them calling themselves ultras is that ultra is a word that means something. There's semantics behind it. In South America and Europe, it usually, not always, but it usually is related to fascism, racism, homophobia, sexism. Now, I'm not saying the inebriati buy into that. I'm saying the word itself, the lowercase u, is what invokes images. And I think it's just so much worse when a sign pops up for this, like you were saying before, media latch onto that and be like, look, this is European soccer hitting Toronto shores. And I think that's the inherent problem that I have, that this idea of ultra has become cool and a word that you kind of throw around, whereas in a lot of countries it actually means something a lot more significant. And so this backlash is kind of a whole bunch of different waves sort of crashing on each other that you can't just look at this one picture. And I say this because a lot of my educational background is in social studies of hooliganism and altruism. So I don't know, I feel like I have a bit of authority talking about this, and when you get on Twitter being a girl and being told, like, I don't know anything, and what do I know about soccer, I do get defensive, and I do kind of fight back, because I do know a few things.
Well, I don't blame you. I don't blame you, and I'm glad you put up a fight. Look, I'll say this about Inebriati, Red Patch, but all the supporters groups, I got a lot of time for them, because they're good people that care about the club. For the most part, 99.9% of them would absolutely, if they saw one of their supporters put up a sign like this or do something stupid, would absolutely root them out of their group. I know that. I've talked to a lot of Inebriati, Red Patch Boys, U Sector, on and on. They're good people. They care about the game. They love the city. They love the sport, and we need them there.
For sure. And I just think that the way that women are dealt with in stadiums, and the sign is just sort of coming crashing down on everyone about an idea that's sort of always been there, and it's always sort of been bubbling under the surface. And in a way, it's a good thing that now it's opening up conversation of how women are treated or thought of in a soccer stadium. And unfortunately, I think 99.9% of people are disgusted in that sign, but there's still that 0.01 that is just like, no, it was funny. I don't see the big problem with it. Or I keep being told that it's freedom of speech, and if I don't like it, just don't look at it. Or like, it's this banter, and it's like the lads being lads, and it's just like, no, it's not.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Look, I know in England for a fact this doesn't happen as it used to happen many, many years ago. England has really cleaned up their act big time, and it's a joy to go watch as a family. Mothers, sons, daughters, husbands, you name it, as a family. It's like that in Spain. I know that in Italy, in some places it's like that. Not all. In some stadiums it's like that.
I've had a run-in with Milan hooligans at the San Siro, so I'm a little hesitant about Italian soccer still, and that's my, I guess, area of expertise. So
absolutely.
I'll fight you on the Italy one, but
absolutely, but not all, Sonja. Not all, because I've been to some, and some of them are really, behaved, and you don't see this kind of garbage, which I think is starting to change more and more in society, where it's unacceptable. Look, you know what I find funny is this, Sonja. Lastly, before I let you go, we don't see this in an NBA game, NHL game, an NFL game. For the life of me, I don't understand why we have to see it at a footy or a culture game. What does it accomplish? Please enlighten me, please.
Well, it doesn't really accomplish anything, but there's this mythology surrounding that, you have to bring the flares, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, which goes back to the idea of this idea of, like, putting up and thinking the ultra or the hooligan is the greatest thing in the world, and it's this performativity that doesn't really exist in European stands or in North American stands, because in Europe it's tied to politics, it's tied to class struggle, it's tied to a whole bunch of other things that you don't have here, so you can't really emulate it and perform it in the same sort of way. And, it looks great in pictures, it looks great on TV to see the flares and the jumping and the singing and the chants and whatnot, and I'm not saying don't get rid of that. But when you start being like, well, that's how they do it in Europe, that's when you get the problem. And they don't do it in Europe because since FIFA put in the fair play, things like that never get shown on TV. Clubs are fined huge amounts. There are stadium bans for spectators if they break these rules. Like, could you imagine if TFC just put in a South End stadium ban and there was no one in the South End because of this? Like, that is what happens in Europe, and that is why things like this have stopped.
Sonja, I'm great and thankful that you joined us. I'm happy that you got it off your chest. Please don't be a stranger. We'll invite you on again when we don't have to talk about these stupid things. We can actually talk about the tactics of the game, the wins and losses, who was on, who was off, on and on. That's what I'd love to talk to you about.
If you ever need me to talk about Udinese, I'm your girl.
Absolutely. Sonja, great of you to join us again. And please do me a favor. Make sure you get your Canada jersey on Friday, is set and ready, and support Canada. Please do that.
Will do. Thanks for having me on.